You see it every single day. Your kitchen sink, the fork you eat with, maybe even parts of the buildings you walk past. It's stainless steel. And, it feels so familiar that we probably don't give it a second thought. But the real story behind that shine, it's way more complex, and frankly, a lot cooler than you might imagine. So let's peel back the layers on this everyday marvel.
I mean, the name itself makes a pretty big promise, doesn't it? Stainless. You hear that, and you think it's just perfect, totally immune to those ugly brown spots that plague regular old iron. It implies that it simply cannot stain, period.
But then, we've all seen this, right? A little spot of rust on a knife, maybe a stubborn stain in the bottom of a pan. So what's the deal? If it can very clearly stain, why on earth do we call it stainless? That's the big question we're going to dig into right now. Okay, so here's the secret. The magic of stainless steel isn't that it's somehow immune to corrosion. The reality is actually so much cooler than that. This material has a built-in, totally invisible, and surprisingly smart active defense system. This slide really gets to the heart of it all. See, with regular steel, oxygen is the enemy. It just attacks the iron, creating that flaky rust that falls away and exposes fresh metal to get attacked all over again. It's a vicious cycle of decay. But, and this is the game changer, when you add chromium into the mix, everything is different. The chromium essentially sacrifices itself. It rushes to the surface to react with oxygen first, and it forms this super thin but incredibly tough and stable layer of chromium oxide. It's an invisible shield that protects all the iron hiding underneath. And this isn't just some random recipe they guessed at. It's a very precise, legally defined formula. To even earn the name stainless, a steel has to have at least 10.5 chromium by mass. That specific number, that's the absolute minimum you need to form that protective shield we were just talking about. And the fact that this definition is actually written into national regulations, well, that tells you everything you need to know about how important this is. We're not just talking about keeping your kitchen sink looking nice. This is about ensuring the safety and performance of everything from bridges to critical surgical tools. This whole shield forming process, it has a name, passivation. And this, right here, is where the material's true genius lies. If you scratch the surface and break through that protective layer, it's not game over. Not at all. As long as there's oxygen in the air, the exposed chromium instantly reacts to heal the wound, reforming that shield all by itself. Yeah, it's literally self-healing steel. How cool is that? So if the shield is so tough and it can heal itself, how is it possible that we ever see rust? Well, like any great defense system, this invisible shield has its weaknesses. It can be overwhelmed, it can be damaged, or it can even be starved of the one thing it needs to survive: oxygen. Understanding the shield's enemies is really the key. I mean, physically, scraping it away with steel wool is one obvious way. Chemically attacking it with chlorides, which are the absolute nemesis of stainless steel, found in stuff like bleach and salt, is another big one. But even something as simple as using a regular steel wrench on a stainless bolt can leave behind tiny iron particles that act like an infection, allowing rust to get a foothold. This quote right here perfectly explains the most fascinating weakness of all. Remember, that shield needs oxygen to heal. So what happens if you trap it in a wet, low-oxygen spot, like a stainless screw in a piece of damp wood? Well, you get the absolute worst of both worlds. The moisture is there trying to cause corrosion, but the lack of oxygen means the shield can't repair itself. The result? You get rust in the one place you'd never expect. All right, so knowing the enemy is half the battle, right? Now that we understand the shield's vulnerabilities, protecting it becomes, well, surprisingly straightforward. The care instructions really just boil down to this: be gentle. Mild soap and water is usually all you need. For tougher spots, a non-abrasive cleaner works wonders. But the most important rules are what not to do. Stay away from steel wool and anything with chlorine, like bleach. And that last step is crucial. Just let it air dry. That exposure to oxygen is what allows the shield to work its self-healing magic. Okay, another really important thing to understand is that stainless steel isn't just one material. It's a huge family of alloys, and each one is precisely tuned with different ingredients for very specific jobs and environments. Let's just look at two of the most common grades to see how this works. Grade 304, that's the all-purpose workhorse you're going to find in your kitchen, but if you're building a boat or a house on the coast, you absolutely need to upgrade to grade 316. The key difference is one powerful little ingredient: molybdenum. Adding just a little bit of it dramatically boosts the shield's resistance to those nasty chlorides we talked about, making it the only real choice for any salty environment. And this whole idea of choosing the right tool for the job, well, it scales up big time. When you get into critical industries, The performance of stainless steel isn't just a friendly recommendation, it's a science governed by incredibly strict rules. I mean, think about a chemical plant or a pharmaceutical lab or an airplane engine. In those places, you can't just cross your fingers and hope the protective layer is working. Professionals have to follow these super exacting industrial standards that spell out exactly how to make sure that invisible shield is as strong and flawless as humanly possible. It really shows you just how much trust we place in this invisible defense. So let's circle all the way back to our original question. Is stainless really the right word for it? The word implies something static, inert, unchanging. But what we've actually seen is that the material is incredibly dynamic. It's not immune to attack at all. It's in a constant, active battle of defending and healing itself. So maybe a better term wouldn't be stainless, but self-preserving.